We are almost done finalizing our camera. All we have left to do is to modify some of its behaviors. The first thing I want to change is the fact that the camera no longer follows the player once the player has been selected. You'll recall that we disabled the camera follow script at the beginning of this chapter because leaving it on before we had a selected character would cause some errors in the console. The easiest way to turn this back on is to use the animation we're already using to move our camera around. With the main camera selected, I'm going to go back to my animation window and ensure that I'm looking at the camera start transition animation. You'll recall we have two keyframes, one at the beginning and one at the end, that represents the starting position of the camera and then finally the end position of the camera. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure my red line, or scrubber, is at the 1 second mark where all of the other end keyframes are. I'm also going to ensure that I'm in record mode. I'll know that I'm in record mode because the record button in the animation window is currently selected, and the properties that I've modified in this animation are red in the inspector. What I'm going to do now is simply turn on my camera follow script. I will see that that has been recorded, and the last keyframe contains the value of the camera follow script being enabled. If I select the first keyframe, I can see that the camera follow script starts off disabled and stays disabled until I get to the very last frame of my animation. I'm now going to save my scene and try it out. We'll see that once the character is selected, the camera still doesn't follow it. Furthermore, we can see a little bit of shaking. This is due to the fact that the camera is attempting to follow the player. However, the animator is still engaged and trying to freeze the camera to the last position of the animation. The result is an unuseful behavior. What we need to do is we need to tell the camera that once it's finished its transition, it needs to turn off the animator. Normally, when turning stuff on and off based on an animation, you could simply add a keyframe to the animation that turns that component on or off. An animation, however, can't turn off its own animator, so we need a script to help us out. I'm going to ensure the main camera is selected, and I'm going to add to it a new script that will assist with disabling this animator. I'm going to go to the scripts folder and then the helpers subfolder. I'm going to locate the animator disabler script. The script is actually quite simple. All this script does is as soon as it starts, it disables an animator. From there, it doesn't do anything else, it just sits on our camera. Obviously, we don't want this script enabled to start. If we were to leave it turned on and hit play, we would see that the animator of the camera is immediately disabled. Instead, we are going to disable this animator disabler. Mostly I'm just trying to determine how many times I can say the word disable in one video. Now that the animator disabler is disabled, which I did by unchecking the box in the upper left-hand corner of the inspector, we're going to re-enable this script inside our animation. We're going to accomplish this in the same way that we turned on the camera follow script. I'm going to click and make sure my red line, or scrubber, is at the last frame of the animation, and that my record mode is turned on. Then I'm simply going to enable my animator disabler. I will see that the value for that has been saved in this last keyframe. The whole animation runs with that turned off, and in the last keyframe, it's turned on, and it disables my animator, which frees my camera to move around and follow my player. I'm going to save my scene, and I'm going to test it out. I'll select a player, and then we'll see when the animation finishes, the animator disabler turns on, which turns off my animator, and allows my camera to follow my player freely.